Hi there, my name's Gina Gardiner, and today I'd like to explore with you the whole issue of giving somebody a second chance. And there are positives and potential negatives, and the way in which we approach giving people a second chance can colour not only their lives, but our lives too. One of the reasons for actually choosing this as a topic today is because I've just seen a clip on the Today programme, which is really heartwarming. And that's of a couple who over the last few years have given a second chance to over 1,000 young people. They've opened their lives and their home as a hostel for the homeless, young people aged between 16 and 25. And those 1,000 people that they have helped have had a second chance at life. But I get ahead of myself. My name's Gina Gardiner. I'm an international best-selling author. I'm an empowerment and relationship coach, and I work with businesses strategically, helping them to get the best out of their people, to become more profitable, and to create better work-life balance for everybody. I'm passionate about helping people step into their power. And I suppose for me, the giving people an opportunity to have a second chance, to do things over, to learn from past mistakes and move on, is really central to everything that I believe in and that I work towards. There's a caveat though, and I suppose there's more than one, but the big caveat is, when does giving people a second chance become counterproductive? Let's explore first around the whole business of giving people the opportunity to start over, to actually put the past behind them and create for themselves a more powerful and more positive future. And in a sense, that's what all of us do every time we wake up. It's a new day, we have a new chance. If things haven't gone well, we can give ourselves another chance to do things better today. I think there's a big difference in terms of how we give ourselves a second chance and whether we give other people a second chance. And in my experience, when people are very reluctant to give other people a second chance, it's because they're fearful that they've been hurt, that their trust has been broken, and that they fear that they will get hurt. And many people, particularly where relationships are concerned, are unprepared to put themselves in the position where they will give themselves a second chance for love. Now, I think there's a world of difference between giving somebody a second chance and if they're making the same mistake over and over, putting yourself in the situation where you're expected to just let it go. I think we're talking about very, very different things. Think back over your life and think about how, as you are now, whatever age you are, how you have changed and grown, and how you've learnt from the mistakes that you've made, and that you would now do things very differently, and indeed do things very differently. If you look at the issue around people who are homeless, a very large percentage of the people who find themselves on the are homeless and on the streets have come from care. That's a bit of an oxymoron, really, because very often young people who are in care, I believe, get treated very badly, in the sense that the people who are part of their family, who are supposed to protect them, haven't done that. And often they've either been neglected or abused emotionally, physically, and that they are really already fighting the tide, because their belief that is created through that is that I have no worth. That, you know, if my mum and my dad don't love and nurture and look after me, well, I can't be worth anything. And so they go onto the streets, and there that self-belief, that negative belief that they are worth nothing, gets reinforced time and time again. And it's a pretty dramatic example of how, unless somebody takes the trouble to believe in you and to give you a leg up and actually give you a second chance, one where you're supported and helped to recognize that you have value, then life gets less and less possible. You can't work if you haven't got a fixed address. It's very difficult to keep yourself clean and tidy. Your health is going to deteriorate if you're out on the street. And although I use that as an example, I think very often there are much less dramatic examples of how people write themselves off or are written off by others and then decide it's easier not to fail by not trying, rather than recognizing that the only true failure is either not to try at all or not to learn from that mistake. Now, inevitably, that people who are on the streets have all sorts of other problems. Many of them have a problem with alcohol or drugs where they're trying to deaden the pain, or they are already suffering from a whole range of mental illness problems, depression, anxiety. Many of the people who leave the army, for example, who've got post-traumatic stress syndrome, a proportion of those will end up on the streets if they haven't got somebody there fighting their corner, believing in them and helping them along. Just these. Oh, excuse me. I once lent a friend a lot of money, and that friend went bankrupt with my money, and it would have been very easy to just say, well, I'm not going to help other people. I'm not going to do anything that will put my resources at risk. And it was a conscious decision that I would not allow that situation to stop me being me. Now, I had made checks before I lent the money. It wasn't I was being silly with it. It was a combination of the recession and the whole situation around property, which meant that what seemed like a good investment fell apart. Now, I didn't get anything. It was helping a friend out. I wasn't doing anything other than trying to help. But I lost my life savings, and I could have been very bitter about that and not helped other people in the future. But I decided that the cost to me, the change in me, would be so negative and so far-reaching that I didn't want that to happen. And I had to let that go and forgive that person, despite the fact that actually they never ever said that they were sorry. And I think that's probably the bit that I found more difficult than anything. Now, would I have lent that person money? No. Have I lent other people money since then? Yes, I have. And I believed that in the goodness of people, that they will do what they say they will do. And I may get caught again. But for me, it's important that I remain true to who I am. I work with lots of people in relationships and work with both partners or just with one partner. And one of the things that people often find impossible to forgive and allow people to have a second chance is if somebody's been unfaithful or somebody's not told the truth. And I'm reminded of a couple where one of the partners was gambling with day trading. They were asked to stop by their partner. They promised they had. And in fact, they almost lost everything. They certainly lost a significant amount of savings, and they could very easily have lost their house. And I can remember talking to her, and she was so angry about the fact that her husband had put her in this position. I can absolutely understand why that was. And we had this conversation about the pluses and minuses of forgiving that person and allowing them both to move forward with certain conditions and caveats, or whether to leave the marriage and lose all of the things that the marriage had offered them both. Now, the important thing in that situation is that both parties have to be really dedicated to making it work. I mean, one of the conditions was that if ever he was involved in any sort of gambling, whether it was day trading or gambling on the horses or cards, that would be the end of the relationship. This was going to be a second chance, not a third or a fourth or a fifth, but a second chance. And what was really important within that, having a second chance, was that she couldn't then keep nagging about it. Because if you keep bringing it up, it's no longer a second chance. I've met many people who've been hurt in relationships, and instead of giving themselves a second chance to actually develop a new relationship, they have decided that they don't want to get hurt and they want to stay safe. And in doing so, they don't give themselves a chance at all to get out there and meet people, or certainly not romantically. The paradox is, the one thing that they've all wanted to do is to be happy and not to feel lonely. And yet their fear of giving themselves in that situation of a relationship a second chance has meant that that's exactly what's happened, because they were not prepared to take the chance, to be brave, to get out there and to actually get involved in another relationship. They haven't given themselves a second chance. I'm reminded of a conversation that I had with a friend whose son has a real drink and drugs problem, and how, to start with, he was given chance after chance after chance, until my friend recognized that what she was doing was colluding with him, that she was actually helping him feed his habit, not overtly and not intentionally. But because every time she accepted the words, "I'm sorry, I won't do it again," but knew damn well that he would actually drink again, that he would take drugs again, because he was never having to take true responsibility for what he'd done. And so she took the very difficult step of saying to her son, aged 18, "You can't live here anymore. You've got to go and sort yourself out. You've got to manage yourself." And it's only once he can take responsibility for himself and recognize that actually this is his choice, nobody else can do it for him, then he's got a chance of making things better. But in her giving him the opportunity to be responsible, she felt very guilty, because she felt that that meant that he was not being given a second chance. But actually, if you think about it, he'd had lots of chances of doing something different in a similar situation. It's old Einstein's definition of madness, isn't it? To keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. And my friend had been giving him the same opportunities, and he had been doing the same actions, the same result. And the end product was that his drink and drug problem didn't improve. Now, at the moment, things are better, but ultimately, it's for her son to make the decision about how he wants to live his life and what he's going to do and how it's going to work. So my challenge to you is to think about, first and foremost, during your life, who's given you second chances? When has somebody had faith in you and that's made a difference? And I'd love to hear it. Please share it in the comment box. Who have you given a second chance to? I'm reminded that when I was a head teacher, we often took kids in that had come from another school where they'd had tremendous difficulties with discipline, being naughty and so on. And I would say to each of the children and their parents, you know, it's a new start. You have an opportunity to do things differently, or to carry on doing things that are the same and getting into trouble and finding that life's not very pleasant. And the other thing that we did alongside that is that we had very clear boundaries that were shared with the children explicitly. And they could dance along the line, but if they went over the line, then they got consequences. And those consequences were always carried through to the letter. Whatever was promised was carried through. Now, I would say to you, 95% of those children settled incredibly well. And within a few weeks, there were no problems, no issues at all, that they had settled their second chance. had given them a chance of being happy and productive at school, and that they had done well as a result. The other 5% we continue to work with, that they needed a very, very different way of working with them. But a 95% rate of success, I think, is pretty good. Now, we could have read the report on those children and actually treated those children as rogues, as children who were lost causes. But I believe passionately that it's important to give children a second chance. And I think that's true of grown-ups too, because after all we are big children. And so I would say to you, whatever's going on in your life, whatever you're dealing with, whether it's dealing with other people or dealing with yourself, think about, do you have confidence and faith in yourself? Because if you don't, give yourself a second chance and get some help, because that will make a real difference. Work with somebody who has got faith in you until you manage to catch up and get faith in yourself. And to that end, come and have a look at the Thrive Tribe. You'll find that all of the information on genuinely-you.com, which is my website. If it's about giving other people another chance, I think it's about getting the balance between giving chances and not being a mug, not being someone who is just being downtrodden. There is nothing about being a doormat. And what I would say to you, if other people are treating you like a doormat, the important thing is to give yourself a second chance to be assertive, to be in control. If somebody else is struggling, if somebody else is living in a situation where they have little confidence in themselves, where things are going wrong, then I would suggest to you that you hold out a branch to them. Give them the opportunity to try things again, a second chance. But it's about getting the balance in that, giving somebody a second chance, but then recognizing that there are consequences to their actions and that they've got to take responsibility. So back to the couple that were on the TV tonight, they had certain rules in their house. You had to be kind, no drink, no drugs, that you had to behave respectfully to one another and to your room, you had to tidy it up, and you were expected to live appropriately and respectfully within a community. So giving a second chance is about putting things in place to give people an opportunity to do things differently, but that also requires boundaries and rules and responsibility. Love to know what you think. Please check out the website, as I say, genuinely-you. You can get a free digital download of my latest international best-selling book, Thriving Not Surviving, The 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success and Fulfillment. And you'll find lots of free resources on the website. If you're interested in being part of a community, then check out the Thrive Together Tribe. I've got a huge mission, which is to positively impact on 1 million people within the next 5 years, helping them to step into the power of being genuinely, authentically themselves. So please share these videos, come and join the Genuinely You Facebook group, and do what you can to help me make a positive difference in the world. This is about creating the spiritual matriarchs and patriarchs, the leaders who can make a real difference. When you look at the young babies coming into the world, we need to protect them and the world so that there is a future. And I need your help. So please engage, share, make comments. Thanks a lot, and I wish you a very good day. Take care now, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye now.